I was driving in this morning, just the usual commute, and I got stuck behind this scooter. And he was doing that thing.
What?
The one where he's just sort of hovering.
Hovering.
Yeah, like not really parking, not really driving, just idling weirdly on the corner of the service road looking around. And my immediate reaction was, the standard one. Come on, buddy, make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed he was lost or distracted or maybe just incompetent.
That's the default setting for most of us, right? We see chaos on the road, someone cutting us off, and we just assume it's random human error. It's comforting to think it's just bad driving.
Right. But that assumption took a serious hit today. I've been reading through the document we're covering, the Executive Summary on Traffic Pattern and Surveillance Analysis, and I have to say it's genuinely unsettling because it suggests that the scooter I saw, well, he might not have been confused at all. He might have been working.
It really reframes the entire experience of a morning commute, doesn't it? We are looking at a synthesis of two very specific data sets here, the vehicle log entry, or VLE, and the SAR vehicle logs. And you're right, the picture they paint isn't about traffic jams or potholes. It's about a coordinated high-stakes network operating right alongside us.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. We aren't here to complain about traffic. We are here to decode this data to understand two things. What are these suspicious movement patterns, the report flags, and who are the people executing them? Because the terms used here, convoy movements, surveillance-like behavior, this reads less like a municipal traffic report and more like an intelligence briefing.
It does, and that's because the stakes in this data are incredibly high. We're going to look at the statistics, and I promise to make the math as painless as possible. But what we find is a statistical link between how a vehicle moves, what kind of vehicle it is, and the specific role it plays in what seems to be an organized system.
Okay, before we get to the spy thrillers, stuffed convoys, and secret signals, I want to look at the source itself. I need to know we aren't overreacting. Usually, traffic logs are full of noise, broken taillights, expired registrations, minor fender benders. Is that what we're looking at here?
No, and that is the single most important thing to understand before we interpret the patterns. If you go into this thinking it's standard traffic data, you'll miss the point entirely. This data set is filtered for severity. They establish what they call a high-severity baseline.
Define high severity for me. Are we talking about a ticket for running a red light or?
Much, much higher. So the data uses a severity scale 1 to 5.
Right.
And in a normal data set, you'd expect a bell curve, right? Lots of 1s and 2s, minor stuff. But in the SAR vehicle logs, the average incident severity is 4.14.
Okay, that's already high.
And in the other one, the vehicle log entry data set, it's even higher, 4.4 out of 5.
4.4 out of 5. That's not a parking ticket. That's a near-death experience.
Exactly. If an event made it into this log, it was critical. The report explicitly states these logs capture high-risk or critical traffic events rather than minor infractions. So as we walk through these behaviors, don't picture someone forgetting to signal. Picture a situation that is inches away from being a headline.
And how reliable is the view? I always wonder about this. Are we looking at grainy CCTV footage where you can't tell a Honda from a Hyundai?
Yeah.
Because if the data is blurry, the conclusions are blurry.
That's a valid concern, but the data quality here is exceptionally high. They have a metric called identification clarity, and it was rated at 4.4 out of 5.
Wow.
This provides what they call actionable data for the police or the motor vehicles department. They have license plates, they have clear vehicle types. These aren't Bigfoot sightings, they are hard, verified records.
Okay, so we have clear eyes on high-danger targets. Let's get into the behavior itself. The report has a section titled Convoy and Coordination. Now, when I hear convoy, I'm thinking military trucks, maybe a presidential motorcade, big, obvious lines of vehicles. That's not what this is.
No, it's much more subtle, which I think makes it creepier. The logs identified multiple instances of convoy movements, but the composition is mixed. It involves bikes and scooters acting in coordination with private cars and heavy trucks.
Acting in coordination. That's a heavy phrase. I have to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
How do you prove that statistically? How do you know they aren't just two people turning left at the same time because, well, the light turned green?
You look for non-standard behaviors. The report lists things like synchronized turning and, I think most damningly, signal sharing.
Signal sharing. What do you mean, like turn signals?
More specific than that, imagine a scooter turning left, and immediately a car behind it makes the exact same move. Or they flash lights in a distinct pattern. Or the lead vehicle brakes abruptly to create space for the follower. When you see that happen repeatedly in a sequence across different locations, It stops being random traffic flow. It becomes teamwork.
It implies communication. It implies they know each other.
Precisely. The report flags this as highly suspicious and states it is potentially related to organized activity or surveillance. They aren't just driving to work, they are moving as a unit.
This connects to one of the weirdest findings in the report for me, the way different vehicles seem to have different jobs. You'd assume a car is a car, right? A scooter is a scooter. But the data says they have specific roles in this network.
And this is where we get to the chi-square test of independence.
Okay, hold on. Flashback to college stats class. And not the fun part. Give us the explain like I'm five version of a chi-square test. Why did they use this? What is it actually testing?
Think of it like a coincidence check. Let's say you have a classroom with boys and girls, and you want to know if the boys are more likely to sit in the back row than the girls. If the seating is random, it should be mixed. But if all the boys are in the back and all the girls are in the front, the chi-square test tells you, hey, this isn't random. Something is going on here.
So in our case, we're checking the link between type of vehicle and type of behavior. We want to know if the trucks are sitting in the back row, so to speak.
Exactly. They ran this test to see if vehicle type dictates behavior, and the result gave a p-value of 0.038.
And for those of us who don't speak math.
In statistics, anything under 0.05 is the gold standard for this is not a coincidence. It means there is a genuine, non-random assignment of roles based on the vehicle. The p-value tells us that the pattern we're seeing is real.
So who plays what role? If this is a movie, who's the villain and who is the sidekick?
Well, the heavy vehicles, commercial trucks, tippers, they are the muscle. They are statistically associated with dangerous moving maneuvers, speeding, cutting people off, aggressive overtaking.
Which makes sense. Big truck, big engine, they push through. They're the battering ram.
Right. But the private cars and scooters, they are statistically associated with stationary or slow-moving behaviors.
The other one's just sitting there, like my scooter guy this morning.
The report calls them spotter-like behaviors. They are watching. They are waiting. The data shows they make unusual stops. Frequent, short-duration stops in areas that are distinctly not parking zones.
Spotter-like behaviors. That actually gave me a bit of a chill reading it, because it implies they aren't just bad drivers who are lost or checking a map. They are static assets in a network.
It validates the convoy theory perfectly. You have the active elements, the trucks moving whatever they're moving, pushing through traffic, and you have the surveillance elements, the scooters and cars, watching the intersections, monitoring the flow, maybe checking for police.
So you have the muscle and the eyes.
Correct. It's a tactical setup.
Okay, I want to push back on this just a little bit. We've got this narrative of a spy network, and it fits the data, but we're still talking about traffic. How do we know these spotters and muscle are actually causing the danger? Maybe they're just annoying.
That's a fair question. To answer that, the analysts didn't just guess. They used regression analysis.
Another stats term. Break it down.
Regression is about prediction. It's like a volume dial. It asks, if I turn up the dial on A, how much does the volume on dial B go up? In this case, they wanted to find the primary risk drivers. What variables actually predict a severe accident? Is it the time of day? Is it the weather?
And what's the strongest dial? What turns up the danger?
It isn't the weather. It's almost entirely speed maneuvering and driver behavior. The stats are incredibly precise here. They found that a 1-unit increase in suspicious maneuvering correlates to a roughly 0.6-point increase in incident severity.
That's a direct correlation. You start driving weird, the crash gets 60% worse.
Essentially, yes. It proves mathematically that how you move is the direct cause of how bad the accident will be. It's not about road conditions. It is entirely about the decision-making of the driver.
They also mentioned something called a suspicion factor, using factor analysis. This sounded like they were trying to build a profile of a suspect.
That's exactly what principal component analysis, or PCA, does. Imagine you're trying to describe a cake. You could list flour, sugar, eggs, butter, or you could just say ingredients. PCA takes a huge list of variables and groups them into the main ingredients of the problem.
So what are the ingredients of a high-risk event?
They found that just two things, speed maneuver and driver-passenger behavior, account for over half, specifically 55.5% of the variance in suspicion.
Over 50% comes down to just those two things.
Yes. It simplifies the problem for law enforcement significantly. You don't need to look at 50 different things. If the speed is erratic and the driver is acting weird, you found your target. That is the core of the danger.
Let's talk about that acting weird part, because the report details some specific behaviors that go beyond just driving fast. We touch on the convoys, but the dangerous maneuvers section, it mentions right overtaking and failure to yield. Those sound like standard tickets you get on a Tuesday.
Until you read the details. The report highlights a recurring pattern of vehicles missing others by inches. It specifically cites 0.5-foot gaps.
Half a foot.
6 inches.
At speed.
At speed. Imagine a heavy truck swerving past your driver's side door with 6 inches of clearance. That is what this data is capturing. These are near misses that are practically hits.
That is absolutely terrifying. You can feel the wind off that.
It's aggressive intimidation. And then there are the critical risk indicators, or CIIs.
Right. These are the red flags.
These are the flags that suggest this isn't just incompetence. First, aggressive speeding, but specifically abrupt velocity changes in high-density areas. Stop and go, fast, slow, very unpredictable.
It's like they're trying to shake someone off, or maybe
Yeah.
confuse the people around them.
Or close a gap in a convoy. And then there's the second indicator, driver evasiveness. This is where the human element comes in. The logs note drivers or passengers frequently looking at the observer or attempting to get signals from other vehicles.
Looking at the observer. That feels very meta. That means they know they're being watched. Right?
Sure. It implies a high level of situational awareness. Think about it. Most of us, when we drive, we're looking at the road, our GPS, maybe changing the radio station. We aren't scanning the environment for surveillance. We aren't looking to see who is watching us.
Right. If I'm looking at a camera, I'm not looking at the bumper in front of me.
Exactly. And that distraction, combined with that aggressive speed and those 0.5-foot gaps, that is the cocktail that creates that 4.4 severity score.
It paints such a vivid picture. You're on the road, there's a scooter stopped at a weird place looking around, that's the spotter. Then a truck blasts past with 6 inches of clearance, that's the muscle. And they're all looking at each other, signaling, scanning for cops. It creates a traffic environment that is completely hostile to the average driver.
Hostile is the right word. It's an environment where the rules of the road are secondary to the rules of the network. They are playing a different game than the rest of us.
Which brings up a bias I think a lot of us have, and I definitely have it. I always assume that professional drivers, truckers, commercial delivery guys are generally safer. Their license is their livelihood. Or, people blame the private cars for being amateurs. Did the data settle that debate?
It did, and the answer completely busts that myth.
Go on. Who is worse?
Neither. They used an ANOVA test analysis of variance.
Okay, quick definition. ANOVA.
Think of it as a referee comparing the final scores of different teams. It tells you if Team A is statistically different from Team B. In this case, Team Commercial Vehicle versus Team Private Vehicle. The test checks if one group causes more severe accidents than the other.
And who won? Or who lost?
It was a tie. The p-value was 0.5632.
And a high p-value means?
It means there is no significant difference. A commercial logo on the door does not guarantee safety. The report includes that high-risk behavior is pervasive across both sectors.
So the pros are just as dangerous as the amateurs?
Statistically, yes. And it was the same for vehicle type in the SAR logs. Whether it's a car, a scooter, or a massive lorry, the severity of the incidents they cause is statistically indistinguishable. A scooter can cause just as much chaos as a truck, just in a different way.
That's unnerving. You want to believe there's some adult in the room on the road, but apparently everyone is equally capable of causing a disaster. So if the bad driving is everywhere and it's coordinated, what do? What does the report recommend? We can't just arrest everyone.
Because the bad behavior is universal, per that ANOVA test, the report argues you can't just target one type of vehicle. You can't just say, pull over all the trucks. You have to target locations.
Location-based interventions.
Yeah.
So they find the stage where the play is happening.
Exactly. The report identifies specific hotspots, service road turns, and flyover deviations.
By those spots.
Those are the choke points. Those are the danger zones where the dangerous maneuvers and the convoy formations happen most frequently. If you want to break up the network, you watch the flyovers and the service roads. That's where the handoffs happen. That's where the signal sharing is most critical.
And they had specific advice on what to look for, right? It wasn't just look for speeding.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a cop on a flyover, what am I actually looking for?
It was very tailored. For heavy vehicles, the recommendation is to monitor for dangerous overtaking, catch the muscle in the act. But for light vehicles, the scooters and bikes, the recommendation is to watch for those suspicious stationary patterns and coordination behaviors.
So police shouldn't just be pulling people over for going too fast. They should be pulling people over for Waiting.
Waiting with intent, that's the key. If a scooter is idling on a busy corner for 5 minutes watching traffic, that is now a red flag. And there's one final recommendation regarding future data that I found fascinating. The report suggests that future logs need to emphasize describing the physical behavior of occupants.
Because of that correlation we saw earlier in the factor analysis.
Right. Driver behavior is such a strong predictor of severity that the analysts want more detail on it. They want to know, are they sweating? Are they on a radio? Are they looking back? The body language inside the car is just as important as the movement of the car itself.
That really drives home the surveillance aspect of this. We aren't just counting cars anymore. We are watching people watching us.
We are analyzing intent, and that's much harder than analyzing speed, but it's the only way to catch a network like this.
So let's synthesize this. We started this deep dive thinking about bad traffic, the guy who cuts you off, the scooter idling in the way. We thought it was just chaos. But what we found in this executive summary is a picture of a road network that is effectively being used for a dual purpose.
A dual-use network, exactly. It's a transit network for us people trying to get to the office or the grocery store, but simultaneously, it's an operational network for them.
We have spotters on scooters idling at turns, acting as lookouts. We have heavy vehicles executing aggressive maneuvers with 0.5-foot gaps to push through traffic. We have signal sharing and synchronized turning. And statistically, we know that if you see someone maneuvering suspiciously, the chances of a severe incident just skyrocket.
And we know that this isn't random. That's the part I can't shake. The chi-square test proved the roles are assigned. The factor analysis proved that behavior and speed are the smoking guns. This is engineered chaos.
But the big question that hangs over this entire report, and I think the listeners are probably shouting it right now, is why?
That is the missing variable. The report is an analysis of patterns, not motives. It identifies surveillance-like behavior and organized activity, but it doesn't explicitly state what that activity is.
Is it criminal smuggling? Is it some kind of private security network? Is it something political? The data doesn't say.
It doesn't. It just says, this is happening, it is organized, and it is dangerous. And honestly, that ambiguity makes it almost scarier. We see the mechanics of the operation, the gears turning, but we don't know who is pulling the levers.
It certainly changes your perspective on the morning commute. You realize you aren't just stuck in traffic. You're stuck in the middle of an operation. You are an obstacle in someone else's mission.
It forces you to be a more active observer. You stop looking at cars as just metal boxes and start looking at the behavior.
That's the thought I want to leave our listener with today. The next time you are driving and you see a scooter idling near a turn for no apparent reason, or you see a car slow down inexplicably while another one speeds up, ask yourself, are you just witnessing incompetence? Are you just seeing a bad driver?
Or are you seeing a spotter in a coordinated network?
According to this data,
Yeah.
the latter is much more common than we think. Drive safe out there.
And maybe keep an eye on the guy in the rearview mirror. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.